What's going on, everybody? This is Marcelo from the M.E.D Minded podcast. We are here with another fresh podcast, fresh episode. We got some more equipment. I have been building and moving things around and changing things, making sure that I have it the way I actually need it so you guys can enjoy it as much as possible. We're going to be doing audio formats as well as video formats. So basically what I'm here to say is we've got a new guest on the show. His name is John George. He's a professional poker player and presumably one of the best esports bettors in the world. So has a brand new NFT project that has already come out. He's already done one version of it. We're on the second edition now. It's called VQ2, Battle for New Venice. It's a NFT P2E / board game thing. It's very innovative. I would say it's very innovative in the realm of NFTs and how NFTs are working right now. And it's something that doesn't rely on a whole lot of other factors except for the gameplay. And so I think it's very unique, and we're going to let him tell you all about it. So without further ado, let's get to it. Marcelo with the M.E.D Minded podcast. We actually have a very special guest. Like I said before, this is John George. John, why don't you go ahead and give us a little spill? Let us know who you are and kind of what you do currently. So that way the audience kind of has an idea of what's going on here.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Marcelo. And I'm one of the founders of VQ Games, which is what we're going to be talking about a little bit here today. For a little bit of background on me, I was a professional gamer when I was a teenager. I played Counter-Strike and Magic the Gathering were the two games that I played at an international level. I kind of parlayed playing Magic into playing poker when a professional Magic player came second at the World Series of Poker for a few $1 million and kind of came back to the Magic community and said, this is the same skill set it takes to be good at Magic, and you can make a lot more money playing poker. So I played poker for a living for about 10 years. When online poker was banned in the United States, I moved overseas for a couple of years, came back and got my first, quote unquote, real job when I was in my late 20s in corporate management. Ended up leaving corporate management to write articles and content for daily fantasy sports and sports betting, specifically esports, which is what I'm most known for. And had a couple people from the DFS community get me into NFTs in about mid to late 2020. And immediately was fascinated with what was going on in NFTs and started building some things right away. So that's how we got to where we are now. It's been a wild and bumpy ride for me as well.
Yeah, I think that's everyone's journey into NFTs, wild and bumpy, and you never ever thought that you'd be here in this weird position, in this weird kind of space that's going on right now. Just kind of blew up out of nowhere. I mean, I know it's been going on since I would say 2015, 16, something like that.
Yeah, I think like around 16, 17 is when there was a very small pocket of people involved in 16, 17. And then I'd say 2020 was probably like the beginning of this current cycle that we're in here.
Yeah. And I thank COVID for bringing us all together into this space, because that's kind of what happened here. At least that's what I think. Everybody was at home researching all these things, and they just stumbled upon this great I don't even know what to call it. I mean, it's great. It's awesome. It's fun. It's exhilarating to be a part of. But I just want to kind of backtrack a little bit when you were talking about, Magic the Gathering and all that stuff. You played at an international level?
Yeah, I was on the Pro Tour for Magic.
Wow.
The Pro Tour, there's tournaments internationally, and if you stay qualified, you can go to all of them. And I did that for years when I was a teenager. And then Counter-Strike, I also played multiple international tournaments for Counter-Strike as well. So been traveling around and playing competitive tournaments and stuff like that since I was 14 years old or so.
It's crazy because just recently is in the last 5 to 10 years, people have finally realized, hey, I can make a living doing these kinds of things, playing games, doing these fun things, traveling internationally, winning large pots, small pots, actually making a decent living doing this. And you've been doing it since, what time frame was that?
Let's see, that was about almost 20 years ago now. So we're talking the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Admittedly, like back when I was doing it, I was in the generation that the money was not really there. Like when I was playing Counter-Strike seriously and Magic seriously, if you were one of the best in the world, you might have made 50,000 a year if you were
Wow.
really one of the best in the world. So you were basically just getting a mid-range job if you were one of the absolute best. If I had been a professional, 10 years later, then suddenly there was really good money in those kinds of things. And these days, I mean, the top esports guys make tons and tons of money, but I was definitely doing it at a time when there was not a lot of money on the line comparatively.
Well, hey, you're a OG. You're a pioneer of that system. So I think it's incredible that you're now getting into, or I mean, technically you were doing poker and then gaming, or was it the opposite way? I'm sorry.
Yeah, gaming first.
It was the opposite way. Yeah.
Poker between about 17 and 29 or so.
Yeah, and now you're bringing all of those skills and that knowledge to a whole new P2E system in the NFT space. And like I had said before, I really think it's a true P2E immersive experience. And so if you can, just, give us some more information about VQ Battle for New Venice. I know this is the second edition. So just give us a little rundown.
Yeah, so VQ Games, the company that I help found and work with, is essentially we've created a series of what I would call like immersive games that are played via social media and NFTs. They're games, but it's not like a video game. The first question everyone comes in and asks is like, when am I going to be able to load this up on my Xbox or something? It's not a video game. It's more like a board game for people that have played something like Settlers of Catan or Risk or games like that. There's a set of turns, and each turn you have a number of different actions you can perform. Turns last 3 or 4 days, so you have plenty of time to come in and decide what you want to do. Once everyone makes their decisions about what they're going to do, we as the game runners kind of show everyone what the result of all the actions were, and then you move on to the next turn. The players that win at the end get huge prize pools of Ethereum, and there's some mystery prizes as well. But what's really special to me, and you kind of nailed it in the way that you were talking, is we keep all of our games within the same narrative universe, is what I call it. So we already played VQ1, which was called the VQ Initiative. We played it last year, and characters that survived that game now will reappear in VQ2, Battle for New Venice, the game that's going to be minting pretty soon here. There are players who played the first game who are now going to be characters in the second game. You'll be able to get an NFT that has their name or something inspired by them to give them sort of their place in the universe. And that's what we're shooting to do, is always allow the players to live through this sort of story that we've built. Yeah. The way that I like to describe it is it's like we wrote the first 10 chapters of a book, and we came up with all these characters and the setting, and we told you what's happening. And now you players are going to play the last 10 chapters and tell us how it ends and who wins and who loses.
Yeah, talking about that whole story. So you actually wrote all of this narrative that goes behind this game.
Yeah, me and the narrative and lore team. We have a narrative and lore team. So like with VQ2 Battle for New Venice, there's 100+ characters that they all have names, backstories, personalities, all kinds of, you can go learn about them. And those were all created by the narrative and lore team, all the different characters and personalities. And then we delivered those personalities and backstories to our art team. We have 15 one-of-one artists who brought all the characters to life and drew hand-drawn one-of-one art for all the characters. So yeah, we wrote that part of the story, and now it's your job to tell us who's going to win in this Battle for New Venice here.
Incredible. So you said there's 15 one-of-one artists. I just want to kind of show everybody this website because I think it's fantastic. It really is probably one of the best websites I've seen personally in the NFT space. Just it's very geared towards being that game that you're talking about, the gamification of the whole space. You have the factions, which these are the actual characters, and I guess this is all the art the artists have done.
Yeah, so the story behind Battle for New Venice is that there's 8 criminal factions trying to take over the city, and when you mint a character in one of these factions, and then you work with the other people that minted into that faction to play the game and try to win and make your faction the final faction standing. So you can see as he's going through here, these are each faction has their own artist. So they have very different styles, which is something I wanted to do on purpose. I wanted each faction to kind of feel very unique. And
And they are.
You can go,
They definitely
and you can
are.
go read on the website and read about each faction and what their backstory is and history, and you can click all the leaders and see their quotes and get a feel for their personality and stuff like that. So a lot of thought into the lore and narrative, because that's something that's really exciting for me. So
Yeah, it's incredible. I've never seen anything done so in depth, and I took some time to actually read through a lot of this lore. I actually read every single faction's kind of their backstory. You know, this one, in the prison cells of New Venice, sleeping giant built itself from scraps. Like everything that you read kind of draws you further and further into this project and kind of what's going on in the backstory of this. And it's really interesting that now we, as NFT holders, or the people that are minting here in the next few weeks, I guess, correct?
yeah, we're looking to probably mint the main game. We're running the test game right now where we're just making sure that all of our blockchain apparatus works, because we have some kind of tricky things that we do on the blockchain for this project.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like everything's working great. So we're looking to mint the main game probably early next month would be a good estimate.
Next month, yes. And next month, people get to actually finish out this story. The lore, I mean, I think it's extremely unique. I think it's inventive and innovative. And that's something I definitely try to do the most of, is find these projects that are innovating beyond the box. You're not so much putting yourself in a box or holding yourself to a certain price floor, because it's a game meant to be played out until the end. And so I'm kind of interested in how that works, you know, especially with floor prices. And a lot of NFT consumers and investors look at the floor price. They look at, how can I make money off of this?
Yeah, so that's the kind of cool thing that goes on with our project, which is that like your NFT has concrete utility. Like it provides you a place in the game and a chance to win the game. So you don't have to worry so much about floor price, because if no one buys your thing, it still does what it's supposed to do. The same way you could flip a profile picture project, you could still flip a Battle for New Venice piece. But worst case scenario, if you don't find a floor price or whatever that you like for your NFT, then you're still getting a chance to win the game. That said, one of the struggles that we've always faced so far in our history here is the floor price for our collections will always end up at zero, because as the game goes on, excuse me, guys, because as the game goes on, characters will die, and as characters die and become not useful in the game anymore, then they're going to be listed at zero. So you'll see a weird diversion of floor prices where there will be pieces that are sitting at zero, but for the live pieces that are still in contention to win the game, their floor price is basically forced to rise and rise and rise, because the closer it gets to winning the prize, the more valuable it is. The prizes are very large. So if your piece is 1 week away from probably winning the prize, it's going to be worth a lot, since it's representing a piece of that prize.
So let's say I'm an investor and we're really close to winning the end of this game. What is this very large prize you speak of? Like, what does that kind of look like for people that are wanting to get, involved in this?
So it's kind of funny, because this is something that was really common for me in our history. Like for me playing Magic, CSGO, poker, the structure that we use is very similar to things that happen in all three of those games, but I have seen a lot of people in NFTs struggle to kind of understand it. So basically all that happens is when you mint, a big percentage of the money that you're paying to mint is going directly to the prize pool.
Okay.
And then a piece is being taken out to pay us and the artists and everybody else that was involved. But essentially, the more people that play, the bigger the prize pool gets. And that's the same way that like poker tournaments work. In poker tournaments, you pay $11 to enter a tournament. 10 of that goes to the prize pool. 1 of it goes to the operators that are running the tournament to pay for their time and services. And that's the same way our games work, is every time you mint, you're just paying a lot into the prize pool and then some to us to help us for running the game and providing all the art and all that kind of stuff.
Of course.
So there's a significant chunk of the money that was brought in through the sale of the NFTs just goes back out in the prize pools.
Wow, fantastic. So, but also this isn't so much a game of chance. It's actual strategy and a little bit of critical thinking. And so I can only assume that investors are going to have to kind of spend a lot of time dedicated to this in order to see that reward.
So that's a good question. And with VQ1, with the VQ initiative, the game that we played last year, that was definitely the case. There was kind of 2 ways to win that game. You could either pay a lot of money, you could just go out and buy a lot of NFTs and you would be able to probably be successful, or you could put in a lot of time. And the general feedback that we got from people was like, we like the game, but look, it's a busy space. I just don't have that much time to do this kind of stuff. So for Battle for New Venice, we simplified a lot of things. I would say the total amount of time it takes to take your actions in Battle for New Venice is probably 10 to 15 minutes at most. And you have to do that once every 3 to 4 days. So it's not very much time out of your life. If you want to put in some extra time keeping up on the faction stats and things like that, it will help you make better decisions. But we even created Battle for New Venice so that you can win the game even if you don't play at all. As long as you mint, if your faction ends up winning, you're going to share in the prize. So, if you want, you can just mint it, sit back, and hope that your teammates make smart decisions and carry you over the finish line,
I'll tell you what, I know a lot of people out there that are actually investing in these things. I think that they're going to have the time because, I talk to my buddy all the time, and every time I talk to him, he's like, hold on, I got to stake this coin, or I've got to swap this thing, right? And he's like, oh yeah, I do it daily. I have to compound daily. I have to do these things daily. So people out there that really want that reward, I think they will have the time to commit, the 15 minutes to doing an action, and also the maybe 20 minutes of studying on their part. Because like you said, if a portion of that mint is going towards that final prize, that's a lot to hope for.
Yeah, and I do envision that by the time we get to something like VQ5 or VQ6, and we have a more established audience and the NFT space has moved around a little bit, that we'll probably start going back to making more complicated games that require more time, things that are built more for people like me. Like when I played Magic, you're putting hundreds of hours into testing decks and things like that. And I do envision that sometime in the future, we'll probably start creating games that require a little bit more effort. But for right now, we wanted to make something that was easily accessible to the NFT community, that you didn't have to have much experience playing games to get into. And it's a chance for a huge come up. In many ways, it's like a skill-based lottery, because the prizes for winning can be 40, 50, 60 Ethereum. So, what other chances are you going to get to spend 0.03 and win 50 or 60 Ethereum?
So that's a lot. It gives
you a good chance to come up in the world. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And for a lot of people, that's life-changing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for a lot of people, 1 or 2 Ethereum is life-changing. So 50 or 60, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to see the actual full-scale game release. And, there's some things that I had some questions about, specifically about the characters. You had said that some of these characters move on from game 1 to game 2, how many renditions or games, VQ3, VQ4, how many times will we be able to see these original characters? Do you think they go on forever, or will they eventually all die off?
Well, I mean, it depends on what's going on in the storyline, but in theory, I would like to continue bringing the same characters back as long as they're not dying, because I mean, we are writing essentially like the official narrative for our universe here. So if your character dies in Battle for New Venice, they're dead in the universe in which we're writing this, so we can't really bring them back. Unless there's some sort of zombie game in the future, who knows, might be. But there's definitely, I really enjoyed seeing in the VQ initiative as an example. There was a main antagonist. His name was Barkley, and he was the social media manager for an evil corporation. And all he did all day, I had a Twitter account for him, and all he did all day was just tweet arrogant and douchey things out at the players, basically. And Barkley survived VQ initiative, so he's back as a special character in Battle for New Venice. And I'll say real quick, special characters are one of my favorite parts of the game, so I'll talk a little bit about them. There are a set of characters that are not faction aligned. So almost every character you can mint comes out as a part of one of the factions. But there are a few special characters that aren't faction aligned, and they play the game in their own way. They have an effect that nobody else in the game has, and they win the game in a way that nobody else wins the game. So they have their own kind of hidden goal that nobody else knows. We don't publicly announce what their goals are or what they're supposed to be doing. So only the players that own those tokens know what they're trying to accomplish. Barkley is one of those characters. So if you mint Barkley, you get a chance to figure out what he does and how you win the game with him.
Wow. So odds are nobody knows what the special characters do. Because if I'm not mistaken, we talked about this before, and you said that some of that special character attributes comes from, like the game Mafia / Werewolf, if any of y'all know what that is. And the special characters in that game could actually win if they got killed off. So that's very interesting and a huge twist on the game itself.
Yeah, there's some very tricky stuff like that. And there's even some things that kind of break the fourth wall a little bit, especially among the special characters, where they may have to do things that are not necessarily within the frame of the game in order to win. So they have their own special prize pool for any faction or for any special characters that complete their missions.
Wow.
And those are probably my favorite part of the game. So I'm really excited about those.
Well, if anyone out there holds a special character, feel free to hit my DMs. I'd love to know.
In the test game, we only minted one. There was one special character in the test game because we did a very small group. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you he's having a lot of fun. He's been DMing me a lot, and he's having a lot of fun running his special character.
That's so crazy. He's the side character that's just kind of like a instigator, instigating things or trying to get other people to do things for him. That's a very fun addition to the game, I have to say. But yeah, man, I appreciate all the information. I mean, I'm sure you're excited for the mint. How's the test game running? I mean, how's everyone accepting it? Because I do know that sometimes on the feed, I understand people have their opinions on Twitter, and it's kind of a new game. It's a new system that not a lot of people have come across. So it's hard to adopt.
Yeah, luckily with VQ2, with Battle for New Venice, we have pretty much only people who kind of understand what we're doing and are pretty into it. So it's been going very well. People are having a lot of fun. We're starting to get down to the nitty gritty in the test game. A couple of the factions have been eliminated. A couple of them are really short. So we're kind of getting close to figuring out who's going to win that one. With VQ1, we had a lot more issues of people like not really understanding what was going on and being annoyed about things. And luckily we talked to them all and said like, hey, what are you liking about this? What are you not liking about that? Yeah. And we took most of that stuff and put it into Battle for New Venice. So I'm hoping we don't encounter too much of that kind of stuff, even for the main mint for Battle for New Venice.
Yeah, because pushback can be hard to handle in the NFT space. People have very, very, very strong opinions. But looking out to the future, what are your long-term goals, like to kind of push this further and further into the market and get the real gamers behind it, get people that enjoy Magic the Gathering, Werewolf, and different board games? How do you get those guys to start looking in your direction?
Yeah, that's a big thing to tackle, and that's something that we're going to have to look at when it comes to like marketing in the future, because I think right now the NFT space has it's a very specific kind of people.
Of course.
And we need to start bringing in a lot of these other people from these other places. I actually joked, but it's partially true, that we actually might have been better off running Battle for New Venice as a non-NFT project, just as like a Web 2 game that people could play, because I think that there's not a lot of people in the Web 3 ecosystem that understand this kind of thing, where there is a huge market of people that do understand this kind of thing, that love board gaming or love things like even Magic or things like that. But I'm glad that we're getting a chance to kind of get a foothold in this space, because using the blockchain is a lot of fun. We do a lot of randomness on there, and a lot of other things that you can kind of mess with on there that I think are a lot of fun. So I think in the future, we should have, my biggest hope is that the narrative expands to the point where there's a lot of people in the world who recognize the characters from the game, who know about their stories, that maybe somebody comes up at some point and decides to write a book or do a TV show or something that based on what happened. That I would love to see something like that in the future. It's not something that we plan to do, but we're more than willing to talk to those kinds of people in the future and have other people kind of add content onto what we're doing. So that's something that would really excite me.
Yeah, that's actually the truest and the most concrete version of what an NFT is trying to do with utility, and having, movies made and shows and comic books and kid shows, Netflix partnerships, all these things. I think the narrative that goes along with this, and the fact that the NFT holders are writing the story, technically, that makes it even more powerful, because you're investing in something that could potentially become a screenplay. So, a screen adopted thing, right?
And you could say, somebody could come along later and write something about it, and maybe like the Traisley campaign won Battle for New Venice, and if something comes out about that, you can say, hey, that was me, man. I was Big Bill Traisley. I was running the Traisley campaign. I led them to victory. It's you that's in the, and then maybe in the VQ3, there's a character based on you for the effort that you put in as Big Bill in VQ2. So that's my hope. I want to get as many people as possible. Get to a point. I would love if we got to a point in the future where we could release a game where all of the characters within it were based on players that had played before or previous characters, something like that. I would love that.
True utility. You get to be a part of the story, and that's something that you don't see. You just don't see it right now. And I'm super impressed with everything that's going on. Like I said, maybe it's hard to adopt. Maybe it's hard for other people outside of the current group to understand it. But just from an outside perspective, I can say that this thing is something that I believe should take hold, because it's something that I think is very innovative, and that's the whole reason for the space. I think 100% hands down that's why you guys are using the blockchain, is because if in this evolving technology world we live in, you really have to start adopting it. I think that every large company, small company, people that are trying to release projects and games should have some kind of foothold within NFTs or the blockchain, that is.
Yeah, and I've said before, I mean, I'm not always right, but I would bet a lot of money that in 5 years, there's going to be a lot of people doing something similar to what we're doing.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm excited that we kind of got a chance to get in here early and establish ourselves and kind of be some of the first people to market with this kind of product. So it makes me really happy. I always have thought of, this is the kind of stuff that I really enjoy doing. And so it gives me a chance to do something that I love. And I'm glad that we found a way that we can make a pretty moderate living while creating something that we all really enjoy creating.
Yeah, of course. And thank you for all that information. I think the audience is really going to be able to digest a lot of this and kind of understand what you're bringing to the table with the NFT project and your past experiences, because it all makes one solid core team, right? And I'm sure you've got, how many people do you say are working on this project currently?
It was 30. It's actually 31 as of today. We just added a new person today. We're going to add somebody from the community. Actually, this is a great story, so I'll just throw it on. Somebody from the community. Yeah. We minted the test game, and somebody from the community made a really funny. They made an NFT that looks just like the NFTs from the game, except it was a cat. And he said all the factions should have pets. And I messaged him and I said, you know what, man? That the one you made looks awesome. How would you like to make a pet for every faction for the main game? And we've been talking about it, and now he's going to come on and make a faction pet for all the factions. One of the other faction leaders that you can mint. So,
that's awesome.
I love adding people from the community. A lot of the people that are part of the team for this were part of the community from the first game, or people that were part of the community from my Web2 business back in the day, people that I met over the years. So making connections with people in the community and then trying to find a way to bring them on where they can get some value out of something that they're invested in, that makes me the happiest.
Of course. Hey, nobody's going to believe in the project more than the people that love it and have played it. So I absolutely agree with that. Pull people from the community because they have the best insights, but yeah, man, I appreciate it. I know this has been a lot of information, but I know that somebody is going to click on that website. And before we get out of here, I want to make sure everybody can see. Let's go ahead and go over to the Twitter. Oh, wow. Nice ad, Savage. That's ridiculous. Go ahead and follow VQ Games Official. This is the official Twitter account for VQ Games. Keep up with everything that's going on. This is VQ2 Battle for New Business. But yeah, go ahead and give them a follow. Check out what they're doing. Great tips, by the way. And we'll say it right here, actually. The golden rule. Never give out your key phrase. And also remember that everything we say, everything anyone says about NFTs, the financial game, it's not financial advice. We always have to say that just to protect not only ourselves, but you as well, because you always need to do your own research. Always, always, always do your own research. There's plenty of information out there to really, educate yourself on how to mint NFTs, how to create a wallet, best practices in the space. So check out some videos, do some research, and then you'll be well on your way. But yeah, go ahead and follow VQ Games and don't give out your passphrase. That's it.
And if anybody has any other questions, feel free to message me. I'm at the Esports Plug on Twitter, or you can message me on the VQ Games official account. Hit me up if you saw this and you're interested in the game. Hit me up. Maybe I'll have a little something for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Alrighty, John. Well, hey, I appreciate all the information. I appreciate you coming on and giving my audience something new to learn, something new to look into, and to just kind of educate themselves about the people in this space. And that's what I find the most valuable is understanding the people, the Johns, the esports plugs of this world, this that we live in right now. You're doing some incredible things, and I wish you all the best. I'm going to be keeping up with VQ2 to see how it goes. I'll be right there watching all the Twitter feeds, and I'm in the Discord as well. So, oh yeah, that's another thing. Join the Discord and get learned.
Attention passengers, we've now reached our destination. We hope you enjoyed the flight and have a nice day.